child protection procedures, basically. So I'm hoping we've got about 40 minutes with them. So I'm hoping we've got lots of questions for them. Okay? They've fallen a bit flat if you haven't actually. I said, you know, they're coming in and you'll have lots and lots of questions for them. So, we're going back now to revisit all the range of issues that you had regarding those the scenarios. That's the
2 discussions and the case study.
2 discussions and the case study. So, let's get together as a larger group. And should we start table by table and see what you've got, or group by group?
Table by group. Table by table.
Got attention.
Attention.
Yes, I think that's quite a good idea. Basically, I'm going to write down all the things you come up with as the effects of domestic violence on children. And I'll take these away at the end of the day, put them on a computer file and get Mel to mail them out to you, so you've all got the result of our collective insights on the effects of domestic abuse on children. I think what we're aiming to do here is we've got our specific two discussion scenarios and then the case study. So we'll talk about those in a specific way, those actual children, but I'll take, wherever I can, I'll take the generalised point and put it down. We'll inevitably get a little bit of repetition, but that doesn't matter. I'm going to start on this one. I think everybody can see both of these. I've tried to view test it a bit. So perhaps I could open it to you good people here. What about the effects of domestic abuse on children that you gleaned from the Eddie dialogue? The 2 children there, Eddie 7, Tamora 4. Any one of you be kind enough to kick us off?
He's not doing as well as he was at school. So
Yeah. So domestic abuse, it affects school performance. Yep. In his case, why?
He used to be quite good, and he used to get stars and feel quite proud of himself, and now he's not doing anything like that anymore. He's just not even achieving what he should be. He's lost his friends.
Yeah, so maybe a bit of bullying going on.
It could be. The key reason he's not doing well, from what he tells us, appears to be, you're very much on the right line, I'm just trying to go underneath.
Yeah.
He seems to be physically tired.
He's tired. Why?
He's
He's staying awake to look out for his sister, particularly. Yeah.
And he's also not getting the breakfast in the morning.
How shall we put that? Affects domestic violence on children. Shall I put erratic meals?
Yeah.
Would that erratic or miss?
Consistency. No consistency.
Poor nutrition.
Yeah.
Miss meals, poor nutrition. And of course it's poor nutrition too, I guess, effectively, isn't it? If you're sitting at a meal feeling so tense, your body can't do too much with that food. Yeah, so Eddie's tired at school. Now he might be being bullied because he's tired, or he might just be really irritable because he's tired and that's how he's lost his friends. And he's not concentrating. He's tired. What might he be preoccupied with? He's not listening to Mrs. Wakes talking about this, that and the other. Sorry, he's thinking
about what's happening at home.
Yeah, he's thinking about what's happening at home.
His own behaviour as well. He's blaming himself, and he thinks that if he behaves and things like that, that will improve.
Classic this. Classic when you work with children. Even if part of their academic side, their intellect knows that really it's not their fault, head knows it, heart doesn't. Nearly always I encounter this thing working with children, in some way it's my fault. Just as you see so often with the women you speak to, it's my fault, he wouldn't do it if it wasn't for me. If I did something different, if I was a better partner, do they? And this, of course, the effects on mum aren't going to be that dissimilar to the effects on the children. So we've got Eddie feeling responsible for the situation. What a terrible burden for a 7-year-old. But if nobody's talked to Eddie about it, which they haven't, because that's what Auntie's a bit, oh dear, nobody's talked to the children about it. Yeah, that's how he's going to see it. Daddy must have left because I was naughty, I was bad. Have we got another point on the Eddie or Harry's little sister tomorrow might be affected?
He's heard the abuse, hasn't he? And he actually described the abuse even though he hasn't seen it. So
Yes.
definitely he's making the pictures up in his head, isn't he?
Is it a child protection issue?
Yeah.
Absolutely, because he's heard it. I mean, this is heart-rending, this bit about, you know, Mummy doesn't think I hear it, and I'm not supposed to be listening. I pretend to be asleep.
Yeah.
You can imagine Mum thinking, oh, this is going to be awful again tonight, same old tonight, I will check the children asleep. She thinks she's trying to protect the children. She thinks they're asleep. Children nearly always, in my experience, almost always know far more about the situation than Mum thinks they know. That's a big issue. And whenever you guys come to discuss with Mum the effects on children, one way or another, at whatever time you do bear that in mind. They nearly always underestimate what the children know. How many of you were aware when your parent or parents were talking about stuff and stuff was going on and you knew that they thought you didn't know? And if you haven't got the full story, what do you do as a kid? You fill in the bits, and that's often even more scary because you imagine the scenario in your head. Yeah, he feels very responsible. Eddie's become a little carer, hasn't he? Instead of being parented, he's parenting. Who's he parenting? His mum and his sister. Yeah. Have you anything that you could add about Tamara and Eddie? And thank you very much, here, some great stuff.
I think we said that internally in my room, in terms of Eddie, there was concerns around the fact that, I mean, apart from obviously talking about the art now, that he was internalising the drawing of it in terms of the old Ben 10 stories that he's making these things up and very much internalising things. I mean, it's good he's using his imagination in that aspect, it's probably protecting that for him, but there is the possibility he doesn't talk to anyone about it, he's just going to go withdraw it inside his self and withdraw it inside his imagination.
I think that's very likely, given the general image of Eddie we're getting here, that he would be the sort of child that would withdraw. In many ways, the fantasy, his ability to make up stories is helpful. What about the theme of those stories?
He's the hero. Yeah.
Hero, Superman, can make everything all right, just like he'd like to do. And people are happy again. Making people happy again, meaning we're not happy. Anything else you've noticed?
We did just notice that it might not seem in the scheme of things as relevant, but it says in the staying safe section, staying safe from accidental injury and death. He mentioned that he goes, at 7.5, he goes and makes a mum a cup of tea. There's potential for him to harm himself, boiling water, that kind of thing. Is he being supervised with that kind of thing?
Probably not, no. He's probably not being supervised. Mum's sitting there in a state and he's going off to make tea. He may be sensible and fine, but the thing is there, particularly what we've got in mind, is that the parents think that the violence is contained. Mum even might be thinking, well, I don't think he'd really go actually when the kids are around and that way, but it's unpredictable. He could lose it any time. And there's what if the kids are up first? There's broken stuff in their house. This is another point. I'm not quite sure how I put it into an effect, but it is an effect. Broken toys. I mean, Tamara's favourite toy that she projects comfort onto.
It's about bullying and security and stability, isn't it, around their things being,
Yeah.
and then the attitude of them being upset by it is just been dismissed rather than being dealt with by the parents.
Exactly.
They're also
Disregard
things don't matter.
of things that matter to the children, things that matter to children.
And I'd suggest that Tamara, there's a great sense of loss that she's lost Woody, because perhaps Woody was a real comfort.
And it also, Eddie mentions that he wants to see his dad, doesn't he? In it?
Yes.
So I think there's that. I'm assuming there's a
He
guilt
wants Daddy
thing.
to come home.
Yeah, there's a guilt thing.
Mrs. Daddy.
Mm.
Sorry, so therefore.
There might be a guilt thing that, you know, he wants to please Mum, but he wants Dad to come home. You know, where does he
Yeah.
fit in it?
It's classic that children want Mum and Dad, and when you work with the children, as would note and be no surprise to you, there's an awful lot of difficulty for the child who wants to be loyal to Mum but still wants a relationship with Dad, because he may be a horrible perpetrator, but he's their dad, and no one else, alas, can become your birth dad just like that, can they? It's just not possible.
And there's been quite a lot of research around children do actually fare better when they have contact with both parents, regardless whether that that breakup was because of abuse or whatever. Children, education under every child matters, do fare better with access to both parents, as opposed to children that were on orders where they were not allowed any contact because of safety. Those children do tend to fare better.
Apart from the ones that are murdered.
Apart from the ones that are murdered, absolutely. I was about to say, but there's a huge risk in our child contact point, and that's a whole another issue is child contact, and one that we haven't even really started to get our heads around yet as far as supporting our clients. But I think it's very difficult when you have your, our children's services identifying the risk, and I said it probably says before, and they must remove themselves from the situation in order to protect their children, and then that violent parent or the alleged violent parent applies for contact, and that could very quickly become unsupervised every other weekend, and that child and that person may have that alleged violent father may have been in another abusive relationship, and those children go and visit a household where there's still abuse going on, and they're going through it a second time. But for our clients, what they're saying is, you've got to give your child, and now you're not there to witness it at all. At least you were there to put your protective measures in as best you could, but now you're going to hand that child over. And that is us, we've got a massive amount of work to do with our civil courts around what they actually see, because I don't think domestic abuse is really taken as serious as it should be in our civil courts. We're leaps and bounds ahead now. We were 7 or 8 years ago in 5 of our criminal court, but our civil court is a whole different issue. And I think it must be traumatic to see your children handed over to the person you had to leave in order to safeguard them. Sorry, I'm not pretending.
No, absolutely. So a huge issue. I'm just trying to give some words to some of the points, simply so I can capture them all for us later. I'm going to use that word, ambivalent, yeah? A relationship with our safe father, as it usually is. Ambivalent. That is so difficult. I really love and want my dad, but he's really horrible and I really hate him. How does a child hold that contradiction? Especially when you throw in somehow the feeling in the child so often it's disloyal to Mum. If I say I want to see Dad, if I do see Dad. And often with mums I say, well, it's not really about the child making a decision, I don't want to see Dad ever again, or I do want to see him regularly, because it will change from day to day. One day the child will never want to see him again, and the next day